Oh, this is absolutely bonkers. You gotta watch this. Look at this. So it's 1938. And all this time we're spending through the years as Americans. Family was such an important figure in our life. Friends are still at the hierarchy. We went to school. Good thing that's changing. College and school. You don't need that Rockefeller education. But yeah, check this house. It's just absolutely bonkers. 1975. Now it's about the time I was born. Seeing a huge shift, kerplunk, family going down, and then we see this. Oh my God, the internet, the matrix going up like crazy. All of this time we're wasting on our devices, disconnected from family.
Welcome back. These TikTok videos will make your head spin and spit pea soup. Let's get weird.
Just in case you missed it, Kanye West has been completely crashing out again, and it seemed to culminate with the fact that he offers now a single article of clothing on his website, which is just a plain white t-shirt for $20 that has a big black schmostica on the front of it. And at $20, it's the cheapest article of clothing he's ever sold. So it seems like he really wants people to buy it. Aside from that, he's been manic posting on Twitter to the point that his own wife got on and basically tweeted like a prayer for him, which is funny to me because I'm fairly certain God left Twitter a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that God comment, but the t-shirts, or as he calls them, maybe I should say schmashtika, like he says, schmashtika. The schmashtika t-shirts that West is selling on his website is particularly weird. Like, you would want to have that t-shirt like we did back in the punk days with a big red circle around it, crossing it out. You don't want to have it straight up on the t-shirt. I just think that he's trying to capitalize on the fact that a lot of Nazis are now just running around out in public, and that, you know, he's going to make a buck selling them at $20 USD. Might be onto something.
These Filipino researchers extinguish a fire using sound waves. A group of researchers from the Philippines is making headlines for creating a fire exterminator device that uses sound waves. The device was created by University of Mindanao engineering graduate.
Yeah, it seems like there's not much you can't do with sound. And here's another example of that. Fascinating. Yeah, I don't see what they're looking at there. I don't see that. I mean, if anything, I would say it looked kind of like an animal that had fossilized. And some digital artifacting, a lot of digital artifacting. But other than that, I don't know what the heck that was supposed to be.
Serial killers do on a small scale what governments do on a large one. They are a product of the times, and these are bloodthirsty times. Even psychopaths have emotions if you dig deep enough. But then again, maybe they don't.
Do you have emotions, Richard?
No comment.
Tell me what kind of emotions you got going through you right now.
I'll tell you what, I gave up on love and happiness a long time ago.
Why?
I don't care to explain that. Let the quote stand for itself. People in this day and age are brainwashed and programmed like a computer at being nothing more than puppets. This nation, this country is founded in violence. Violent delights tend to have violent ends. Madness is something rare in individuals, but in groups, people, and ages, it is the rule. Killing is killing, whether done for duty, profit, or fun. Men murdered themselves into this democracy. You agree?
Some people break when they find out the truth. Hearts get broken. I know when I first discovered the reality of how human beings make their way through their lives for profit, it sickened me to the point of anger, frustration, and coupled with my own PTSD, obviously, I turned to punk rock as a salvation. So music was a way for me to express all my frustration and angst in a way that I couldn't get in any other way. So some people act on being broken in a way like Richard Ramirez, and some people transcend through being brokenhearted, kind of like what I did. But the craziest part of that whole situation is that when he was crawling into people's windows and killing them all over LA, my sister and I and my mother lived there when all this was happening. And every night we were terrified, wondering if he would break into the house at some point and get us too.
You are probably right. I'm going to tell you another story, and it is not deja vu. It is not deja rêve. It is a secret third thing, and I would love to know if anyone has ever experienced anything like what I'm about to say. So this happened in November, end of November in 2021. I was living with my ex at the time, and we were making dinner. I'm standing at the island in the kitchen, and she has her back turned to me. She's facing the toaster, and I remember this specifically because she was toasting bread to go with her spaghetti, and I was having a thought process of, I just had never heard of anyone toasting bread to go with their spaghetti. I'm sure that that's a thing. Like, I've heard of garlic bread and spaghetti, but I just hadn't thought of like toast with spaghetti. So I was thinking about that. Again, her back is facing me. She starts talking. All of a sudden, in the middle of her sentence, my ears start ringing like crazy. Disclaimer, this is when I start to sound absolutely insane. Okay, you don't have to tell me, I know. I feel a sensation I have never felt before, which is the feeling of being above my body and slamming back into it, as if I was just somewhere else and I have just arrived in my body. And in the same way, you know, when you wake up from a dream and like you're clinging to the details of the dream and it just starts to slip through your fingers the moment you wake up, like that, I was starting to forget where I just was. But I was repeating a few things over and over again in my head from where I just was. And those two things were, why am I here again? I've already done all this and I have to do it right this time. Again, why am I back here? I've already done all this and I have to do it right this time. Over and over, that was all I retained from it, but it was a physical sensation of dropping into my body, like almost like I respawned in a video game. I had this distinct feeling that I was older. Like I don't know how to say that without sounding insane, but the first few moments of me being back in my body were spent looking around in disbelief and wonder that I was back here again, which terrified me. And simultaneously, almost as if it was like a visual, and I know this sounds fucking crazy, almost visually, I can see in front of me the paths from that exact moment. On one of the two, like, paths, if you will, is me responding normally to what my ex was saying. Like, she was saying something about her pasta bread and I responded normally to that. And then on the other side was the one that I felt like I was on, was the one where instead of responding to the bread comment, I said, hold up, I just had the most insane fucking deja vu of my life. But before I felt the path fork sort of situation, for a split second, it felt as if, and I know this sounds insane, but it's important, it felt like I was holding two memories of the same moment, and then they changed, and then that path went that way, and I went this way, and I could no longer see that, and then it all faded. It was all over in like 10 seconds. But this is where it gets insane. I say, hold up, I just had the most insane deja vu of my entire life. I feel like I just slammed back into my body. That's all I said. I'm expecting her to just be like, wow, that's crazy, because that's what everyone always does. Instead, she turns around and looks at me with absolute horror in her face and says, wait, that happened to me today too. She said, I was standing in the aisle hanging things at work and I felt like I slammed back into my body. And she said, I didn't even say it out loud. She said, I felt like I was holding two memories of the same moment and then it split. And we just stood there staring at each other in absolute disbelief. And I never was the same after that. Ever. It changed my entire perception of time. Like, it broke my brain. I actually for a while was afraid that I had experienced some sort of psychosis or something, so I would talk to my therapist about it and she was like, this does not sound like psychosis to me, but it bothers me to this day because there was a distinct feeling that I felt in that moment that did not feel like deja vu or deja rêve. It was distinct and it's never happened before and it's never happened since, and it fucks me up because those are the only two things I remember. Like, why was my thought, I have to do it right this time? Do what? Do what right this time? That's a lot of pressure. What happened last time? Did I die and then respawn for real? Anyway, my whole life changed after that. And for the record, I'm pleased with my life now. Like, we're good. Everything's great. Has anything like this ever happened to any of you? I don't have words for it. And since we're on the topic, I felt like it might be a good time to bring it up because I've been searching for answers. Also, fun fact, me telling that story was actually the first video I ever recorded on this TikTok account. It's still sitting in my drafts. I obviously never posted it, but I recorded that video like right after it happened because it was so insane that I was like, I feel like I should share this with the internet, but then I was scared of the internet back then. So I didn't, but now I'm telling it. And does anyone know what it was? Thank you so much.
That's incredible, right? every single day that passes, we're discovering that the universe holds more secrets than we even thought were there. It's just that somehow we're able to tap in to the information that enables us to perceive it. This seems to be the era, just intuitively now, it's just my intuition speaking, that we're peeling back the layers of the onion of the multiverse and finding the secrets that we've always felt in the dark recesses of our hearts, the secret places in our hearts to be true, but didn't have the courage perhaps to sort of either find out our truth or speak our truth about it. And now it seems to be revealing itself one story at a time. That's just my feeling. What do you guys think?
So, if you go to whitehouse.gov right now, the reproductive rights page is gone. The Spanish language version of the website is gone. The Office of Gun Violence Prevention is gone. The Constitution of the United States has been removed. But we do get this very expensive piece of propaganda telling us America is back in their place. That video is called America's Back. So women can just stay in the home. Immigrants can go home. We can just pray our kids make it home because daddy's home. Got it? USA.
Just for the record, this channel is for entertainment purposes only. You guys make up your own mind.
Oh my god.
Hey!
Let's go.
Oh my god, no! Ready to go? Oh my god, no!
Does it meet your standard of surfing, chick?
The stairs.
Oh, I needed that.
When you're speeding down a highway and you're stopped by a law enforcement officer, what happens when he sees the Masonic emblem on your windshield?
Usually what you have is a direct turnaround in attitude. I myself am a young man. I get hassled by cops a little bit. It seems like they always have cop an attitude when they pull me over, but when they see the Masonic square and compasses on my car, and most importantly when I flip out my dues paying card, a card that all dues paying Masons carry, the police officer, well, let me just put it this way, I've never once got a speeding ticket or a traffic ticket or have even been harassed in any way when they have known that I am a Mason.
Now, what happens when a Freemason goes into court against someone who's not a Freemason and the judge is a Freemason?
Okay, well, you have a very subtle interaction that goes on. All Masons are taught secret signs and secret words and secret phrases and this is some of the most, this is what they don't want revealed more than anything else. You can stand in a particular position, you can hold your arms in a particular position, you can speak certain words, the widow's son, traveling man, keywords and phrases that will let this judge know that you are a Mason. And
in the show News Radio, they revealed that Freemason judges protect Freemason brothers. In Season 3, Episode 15, they literally openly reveal it and use the real word for the Master Masons, which is Tubocane, as the code that Masons tell judges to be set free.
That all federal, state, and local judges are members of a certain obscure sect of the Freemasons.
Now, hold on. Our strategy is that all judges are Masons?
There's more to it than that.
Like what?
Well, there's a secret Masonic word which, when uttered, obligates judges to rule in your favor, and they have to go paddle each other off in a secret cave.
I think the original interviewer, that white Mason, I'm just going to assume he's a white Mason, which is probably why 9 times out of 10 he gets out of any infractions with a cop. Just saying. But it sounds like Bill Cooper is interviewing him. He wrote Beyond a Pale Horse. Definitely sounds like Bill Cooper. And thirdly, if I ever get pulled over by the cops and get sent to a court hearing of any kind, you know I'm talking about tubal cain when I get in there.
And tell us your name and what you do for a living.
Hi, I'm Maxwell Lahin, and I am a physicist, inventor, entrepreneur, and, well, I guess change maker. I'm 13, and I feel like I can change the world, and I've already started my positive impact on it.
What have you done? How have you changed the world so far?
So aside from inventing a whole bunch of different stuff that probably won't matter now, but my most recent thing, which has gotten me a little bit of attention online, is my energy device, where I extract electromagnetic energy from everything around us and convert it into electrical energy. In other words, a stream of unlimited energy. So, you know.
So, do you think you can solve our energy crisis here on planet Earth?
I believe I will, and I believe I already have solved the main problem. Now it's just a matter of, getting this out there.
And what do you need to be able to get this out there? You just need somebody to watch this video and say, here's some money, or what do you need?
Well, all I can think of really is support, Throughout history, people like me have been prosecuted and killed, murdered, and a lot of other very horrible things. And if I have support from a lot of people, I don't think that that will happen in our modern day and age. We're a little bit too civilized for that. So all I'm saying is that if you think the world should be a better place too, then, support.
I wonder if this kid's still alive, first of all, because I don't know. It looks like this thing was shot maybe in the 90s or the early 2000s or something. And the other thing I wanted to say before we continue here is that isn't it beautiful to see how simple and unjaded and uncynical a child's brain can be? The way children think of the world is so haunting. And I say haunting because as soon as you get a little older and figure out how business works and where our incentive comes from, which is money and business and politics, in order to get the things that we want in our life, the world becomes sort of a version of hell. But we can have the world that children believe in and that children create in their minds because we've done it and we know that world exists. Anyway, I digress here.
Started off by talking about my book, E equals MC squared, and the new definition of God, and you told me that you had already come to the same conclusion 3 years ago, and that my book was a dumbed-down version of your theory, which I think it's clearly the case. What is God?
Okay, so a lot of people think God is, quite in the biblical sense, a guy sitting up on a cloud who controls the universe, frankly, and has created all life. But my definition of God is not like that. I don't believe God is a person or entity. God is just another form of energy. Well, actually is energy. Himself, well, not even himself, itself. For the fact that you look at the Bible and other really, awesome but extremely vague and unreliable sources in religion that, hold these sources that we find and facts that we find, or so-called facts that we find, and really a lot of people think it's just about faith. But if you relate the Bible to quantum physics and apply most of the laws actually in not less of a figurative sense, but more of a literal sense, and replace it with things like the universe, you'll eventually find out that it explains in-depth quantum physics and astrophysics, experiments and theories. Well, maybe not theories, because maybe now they're proven. Who knows? Maybe the Bible isn't a story of something that happened on Earth, but maybe a story of how our universe began. For the fact that, honestly, I don't really buy into the literal biblical sense. Like, God is literally a guy who looks like us, who sits up in an alternate realm that's in our clouds and, watches over all of us. But I guess you could say that he's an energy form that created all, is all, and is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. God, or energy, lives within us, through us, and can
And is us.
Frankly.
Not gonna lie, like, I sort of feel exactly like that kid feels about the concept of God. And I also can add to that, what is a better way for an infinite form of energy, cosmic energy, infinite energy in and of itself to perceive itself than to break itself apart into millions of little pieces, erase their knowledge of where they came from, and peer back at heaven in wonder and in curiosity. You know, like the physics concept of particle and wave. The wave is a wave until there's an observer to look at it, then manifests as a particle. But both require each other to exist, which is kind of the concept of quantum physics, right? That there are quantumly entangled particles, two particles, one here and one somewhere else, but both can be affected if one is stimulated. The world that this kid envisions is a possible world. And if we can't have it here, perhaps we're tuning into the information where it happened somewhere else. So just the fact that we're even conceiving that idea could possibly mean that we could create that here. The one thing I've been trying to come to terms with lately is the world outside is how we feel inside on an individual basis. So how we're each feeling is actually physically shaping the world external to our internal universe. And if we think and believe in all of the stories that we've been force-fed through institutions like school and business and programmed education, regurgitated over and over and over again to believe the historical victors of information, then we'll believe that and we'll create the world based on those thoughts. But if we perceive a world that's completely different and the world that we want, each of us, one at a time, maybe collectively, we can help to usher in this new golden era. And maybe that's what's happening. Maybe that's why there's all this turmoil, is people finally had enough and they're looking inward to find the answers, not outwards. We're not looking for some sort of political daddy to give us the answers and lead us into the sunset. I think we've recognized that we've held the power all along. We just have to find a new way to express it.
McDonald's cheeseburger. Still warm. Just tempted to eat it. Okay, so we're going to leave our burger to digest for a while in the acid. Come back later and see what's happened.
Hydrochloric acid is found in everybody's stomach.
3.5 hours. So we're going to see what happens to a tasty McDonald's cheeseburger after 3.5 hours of concentrated hydrochloric acid.
That's disgusting.
I think it's absolutely disgusting.
Like, what is that?
Ugh. So, I mean, the fats aren't really going to dissolve very well because in your stomach there's lots of bile acids and thing in your actual body to do digestion.
Moving on.
But now we're going to go back in time and I'm going to ask you who you think did each of these huge events, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The killing of MLK Jr.
That was a CIA operation because they considered him a dangerous communist. And both the FBI was bugging in churches where he was giving some of his speeches in churches. They were bugging the podiums and following him around. He was a top target for elimination.
JFK.
I think that was a CIA hit, and they may have employed some mafia connections to carry it out because that was their mafia assassination program.
Exactly. LBJ was very involved in all that in Dallas. And so
he was an evil man.
He was an evil man. Okay, what about Pearl Harbor?
They knew the attack was coming. They knew where it was going to happen in Pearl Harbor and when. And they told no one, and they let it happen on purpose. That's from the commander of the Pacific Fleet. I would say that's a pretty credible witness. So yeah, that was a false flag.
They've admitted that. They admitted they heard it was going to happen. And, you know, how else were you going to get Americans to be on the side of this war that had nothing to do with us? Which brings us to 9/11. Your opinion?
My opinion, as a criminal investigator, as a former CI officer, 9/11 was not the act of a bunch of poorly flight-trained terrorists that executed an unbelievably meticulous piloting of those aircraft. Even pilots, there's pilots for 9/11 Truth now, and they say we could not have done that. Experienced pilots could not have made those maneuvers. Not possible. And then we go to the passport issue, and we go to the Tower 7, which was a controlled demolition.
Obviously.
You talk to any structural engineer, and I have. Well, that was a controlled demolition. I mean, it was perfect. And the fact, I think George W. Bush blacked out, I think it was 40 pages of the 9/11 report dealing with Saudi Arabia. And the report came out, the 9/11 Commission report came out, but those pages were blacked out and he refused to unredact them. So wait a minute, this report was supposed to be for the American people on what happened, and you blacked all these pages out? What in the world? I do not think that it was a bunch of poorly trained or untrained terrorists that did it. I think there was another source behind it. I think it was intentional. And I'm going just from a criminal investigative perspective, just looking at the evidence, what evidence we have, that was an intentional act. And it would fall right into the MO that you and I are talking about. Horrible event, because human life does not matter to the shadow government deep state, or especially the CIA. It does not matter. They're pawns on their chessboard. They don't care that 3,000 people were horribly killed that day, but it achieved the aim of gutting the U.S. Constitution, bringing in the horrific Patriot Act, giving the CIA unthinkable authority for secret prisons and torture beyond waterboarding and secret renditions and all of that. The FBI, the ability to spy on Americans came out of the Patriot Act. So it was the perfect national security state energizer that the Patriot Act was, and 70 of the congressmen and senators that read the Patriot Act didn't even read it. They just signed off on it without even reading the bill. So, yeah, I mean, that's my view.
I've got to start putting more lighthearted content on here. Wow. But all that stuff that he talked about, stuff that I'd heard over the years as well, and none of that surprises me. And we're going to find out more if we can. Things are about to come out if certain individuals can be believed about people like JFK and MLK. But after the Epstein papers were released by a YouTuber and not by Congress, I'm not so sure we'll ever get the information either about NHI or UAP for that matter.
What body part do you find the most attractive?
Deep nostrils.
Okay.
What? I like them deep.
She's the deep queen.
Shut up, Lorca.
Sorry.
Shut up.
My name is Kuzu Veldor. I have a severe learning disability. We're out here on these streets. You know we ain't nowhere near Deedle. And we're asking the real questions to the real blurrin. Let's get to it. Snap. What can a glurrin say in the bedroom to get you in the mood?
Are you recording? Are you this?
Yeah,
we're
recording.
Are you?
This is a camera.
Am I being the recorded?
What was that?
Okay, if you're recording this, that's not okay because I need to put on my hat.
The super stylish hat that I look absolutely cool in.
What can a glurrin say in the bedroom to get you in the mood?
I'd like it if they whispered something and I couldn't really hear them. Like they said something when I was like, what did you say? I couldn't hear you. And they were like, I didn't say anything. And I was like, no, you did say something. And they were like, never mind. And I was like, just say it. And they were like, it doesn't matter. And I was like, it does matter. And they were like, can we just drop it? And I was like, you always do this. And they were like, do what? And I was like, nothing. And they were like, just tell me what I do. And I was like, we don't need to get into this right now. We're going to be late for Ethan's skate trials. That would really get me going.
It would have been quite the sight.
I'm not answering that. Are you on dirt?
Yep. What's your favorite Monovision show?
Honestly, bug fights.
Here we go, Dorgan.
Okay.
It's mine too.
Don't copy me, Lorca.
I just like it.
I just want to.
Blurring cop files. I hope they bring that back.
Yeah, I think they're bringing it back.
Justice for Snarbo.
Neat job.
Dirty and deep down. Who sings that?
We're talking about Monovision shows.
Dirty and deep down.
I'm sorry, but you have a very lovely voice.
You a Tiggy Skibbles fan?
I've never heard of them.
Who is that?
I am Tiggy Skibbles.
Oh, my monolith.
What do you think of the Resistance?
The resistance is here. The monolith must fall.
Between you and me, I would love to commit a revolution, but like I need to work, you know? Because I'm kind of drowning. So if I had to also do a revolt, I'd be drowning more, and like right now, it's the perfect amount of drowning, you know?
Tell us, who's your hall pass?
Dorgan Watho.
Dorgan Madmouth Waffo.
Hello.
Dorgan Watho, for sure.
Dorgan Waffo.
Dorgan Watho. Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm not.
Your dress is on backwards.
No, it's not.
That's it for Street Meat. If you want more, just follow me. If you see me, I've got all 134 episodes at my place. My mom says 3 are pretty good, and she says with a little bit of practice, and if I was totally different, I could get on Monovision. So, we'll see what happens. Snap it.
AI is good and good. What can I say?
Have you ever heard of the Satyr Square or the Templar Magic Square? Because I hadn't until yesterday, and newsflash, it might just have been decoded for the first time, properly. in 2,000 years. Here it is. It is a 5-letter square, which is a palindrome, which means you can read it any which way, upwards, backwards, front and back. Latin letters, it reads Sator, Arepo, Tenet, Opera, Rotas. And if you keep looking at it, you can see any which way, Arepo, read it backwards, Opera, Tenet, Sator, Rotas, you get it. Now, this weird little word game has been around for a very long time, with the first one ever found, so far, dating to 62 AD in Pompeii. Now, it's really important to note that you can find the Sator square or the Rotus square either way around. So sometimes it starts with Rotus and sometimes it starts with Sator. Now, the original one says Rotus, but as it got replicated and more into the medieval time, it became more popular to use Sator square. Now, hold that thought because it's important. Now, this square took on a bit of like magic mythological lore. It turns up in buildings, it's carved into manuscripts, stone. People, especially around the medieval times, thought that it could cure illnesses, and they would carve it onto bread and then eat the bread and it would make you better. Carve it into houses for protection, or even skulls, which is very dark. But what does it even mean? So in Latin, it translates to Sator, which is seeder or grower or originator or creator. Arepo, which no one has ever been able to translate because it is not a Latin word, so we have no idea what arepo means. Tenet, which means to hold, to keep, to master, to sustain, that kind of word. Opera, which means labor or effort, like work. And rotus, which like rotate, which means wheel, to circulate. So the first like proper study into the Sator square was in the 1800s, and people have been trying to decode and translate what exactly this could mean and why the hell somebody wrote this down in the first place. So like a direct translation could mean the sower Arepo, if that's a name, works the wheels with care. Or as Christianity grew and grew, people kept trying to sort of connect it more to religious meanings. So it could mean as you sow, so shall you reap. Say that 10 times fast. Or the creator preserves his work. Someone also works out that there is a potential anagram that says Pater Noster, which means our father in Latin, and then A and O, which are the symbols of like Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. However, there is a new translation. This gentleman, called Bob Grenier, who is a scientist volunteering at the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project YouTube, is doing a deep dive research into the Sator square and connecting it to his research and experimentation in low energy nuclear reactions, essentially cold fusion. Now, I know you're like, wait, what does low energy nuclear reactions have anything to do with this old Roman Sator word game? But trust me, trust the process, it's connected. Bob's research is showing that under the right conditions, elements can go through something called a fractal toroidal moment, which is a really posh word for a vortex or a whirlwind or a rotating rotus. Now, one of the results of these elements going for a little ride through a miniature vortex is that you can not only transmute chemicals, literally change them into other things, but you can also rip matter out of existence, as in here, and deposit matter on the other side of the vortex. Now, this is sounding crazy sci-fi, but this is legit experiments that you can do at home. Right, as a little example here, this is a sheet of aluminium which has been submerged in water and a sound frequency applied to it. This activates this toroidal rotating vortex, and look what happens to the aluminium. So not only in these mini vortexes are they ripping up matter from the aluminium, transmuting the chemicals and leaving a little gift of different chemicals, the very definition of alchemy. The shape that these whirlwinds leave behind is a yin-yang. So in the nutshell of nutshells, it's possible through this quite simple process of creating mini vortexes through moving water and turbulence, sound frequencies. You can create and destroy matter and change chemicals. What does it have to do with the Sator square? So back to Pompeii, where the Rota Square originated. Bob found out that there was a huge immigrant community of Jewish people in Pompeii at that time. Now, Jewish people, even though this is written in Latin, read from right to left, not left to right. So the original square, which was the Rota Square, right this way round. So if you read it backwards for us from right to left, which is Sator, Arepo, Tenor, Opera, Rotus, bloody hell. Now we know that Jewish symbology is heavily, and wording is heavily encoded with ancient principles, sort of science, magic. It's why the Masons and the Templars have a lot of Jewish imagery. Is it possible that somebody from the ancient Jewish community moved to Pompeii and created this in the modern Latin, but encoded some secret knowledge about ancient science? Bob theorizes that Arepo, that nobody's been able to translate for like 2,000 years, potentially could be A to O, alpha to omega, rep, which means like repeat. So alpha, repeat to omega, eternally, keep rolling that, which would mean Bob's translation reads, the divine creator, from alpha repeatedly to omega, comprehends and works with whirlwinds. Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg of what this potential technology, this potential science could do. We're talking cutting ancient stone. We're talking clean energy, changing chemicals into other things, carbon to oxygen, that kind of thing. This is just literally the beginning of a big deep dive. I'm going to do more videos, but I wanted to tell you this because I found it out yesterday and it's blown my mind. What do you think?
She did.
Oh my gosh, okay. Do you want to be a literal wizard? Well, guess what? You can be. There's an actual Hogwarts in America. It is in Faber, Virginia, and they teach you how to bend spoons, go out of your body, and use your consciousness to travel to other levels of the multiverse. I went there and I'm going to tell you about it. And if you're like, oh, I've heard of this place maybe? Yes, maybe in the CIA papers that have gone viral about the Gateway process. The CIA was indeed interested in them and studied the Monroe Institute and went there. Yes, this is the same one and it still exists and you can go. And I'm going to tell you about their programs, which are so cool. Basically, it was founded by this guy named Robert A. Monroe. He was a businessman, he was smart, and he wrote a book called Journeys Out of the Body and a lot of others based on how all of a sudden, after his middle life, he started to go out of his body. This is actually the one I just attended and got back from. It's called the OBE spectrum. For me, this was well worth it. This included room and board, 3 meals a day, yoga, meeting the best people I've ever met in my life. Because you spiritual people know how lonely it is sometimes. We need metaphysical, kooky friends. And it's the perfect place to meet them. And you get to learn the program. I saved up for it, and it was worth it. I'm going back. They have more programs. So this one teaches you how to have an out-of-body experience. It talks about the different kinds. There's bilocation, where your consciousness is in 2 places at once. There's actually out of the body, where you could see yourself and you're on the ceiling and you're like, whoa. You can put your hand through walls. You can fly to other places.
I think a fast track to the same experience would be a hit of DMT. If that can be real. But the perception of the world is changing. And when I say the world, I mean actual reality. The Monroe Institute does have a lot of scientific data behind it to prove its validity and a lot of its experiments. So there is some truth behind the Monroe Institute and the things that you can do there. And I think that at this time in history, we're slowly tapping into what our true potential and our true reality is here on Earth. It always reminds me of the story that James Fox kind of told. And I believe it was the dying alien in the Varginha, Brazil incident, where the alien was in the hospital and the scientist or the doctor that was trying to treat this thing was being communicated telepathically from this NHI to the doctor. And what the alien supposedly said was, I feel sorry for you humans. You have no idea who you are or what your true potential is. So I kind of think that maybe we're on the brink of that new knowledge and that we're tapping into the true reality of nature and our part in it and how we can help to create the universe itself purely through our consciousness, and how by tapping into that realm of pure information, we can render the universe at a distance. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thanks for tuning in to get your weekly dose of reality. I'm JB. This is Intergalactic House of Pancakes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. But most importantly, stay weird.